Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I update the House on the peace process in the Middle East and my trade visit to India, I want to put on record in this House my utter condemnation of the vile anti-Semitic terrorist attack at the Heaton Park Synagogue in Manchester, which killed two Jewish men, Adrian Dalby and Melvin Kravitz. Mr. Speaker, anti-Semitism is not a new hatred. Here in Britain, Jews have had to deal with the shameful reality that their buildings, their way of life, their children need extra protection. We must also be crystal clear that while this was an attack on Jews because they were Jews, the Islamist extremism that motivated this sick individual is a threat to every citizen of this country, an attack on British values, British security, and the British decency that holds our communities together. Mr. Speaker, let me now turn to the Middle East, and words I have longed to say in this House for a very long time. The surviving hostages are free. The bombardment of Gaza has stopped. And desperately needed aid is starting to enter as a result of the peace plan led by President Trump. We have the chance, and it is a chance, to bring a terrible chapter in history finally to a close. Mr. Speaker, it's a moment of profound relief for this House, for this nation, indeed for the whole world. But it is tempered, of course, by the knowledge that for the hostages and their families, for the loved ones of those killed on October the 7th, and for the innocent civilians in Gaza, the dead, the bereaved, the starving, this has been 2 years of living hell. I think of Avinatan Orr, who has family ties to the United Kingdom, returned at last to his family and to his girlfriend, Noah. Avinatan and Noah were taken from that music festival 2 years ago. The footage of their abduction, filmed by Hamas, evil, committed to camera. I've met Avinatan's family and heard for myself the agony that they suffered for 2 long years, waiting for him to come home. His frail condition, shocking evidence of the appalling treatment he must have endured. Mr. Speaker, we await the release of the deceased hostages. Those families need the chance to grieve, and so we demand that they return to their families immediately. Mr. Speaker, my thoughts are also with the people of Gaza, almost all of whom will have lost family members, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, and of course, worst of all, sons and daughters. Over 20,000 children killed. I think of people like Yara Yagi, who I met a year ago, 17 years old. She was studying at college in Hertfordshire. She had lost 44 members of her family. 44. A pain that cannot be erased, even as we welcome the peace today. But, Mr. Speaker, mercifully, the killing and destruction has now stopped, and aid is beginning to enter Gaza. But, to be clear, we urgently need to see more aid and faster. All restrictions must now be lifted. The need for food, sanitation, healthcare and shelter are still acute. While the signing yesterday was historic, what matters now is implementation and getting help in as quickly as possible. The UK is providing £20 million in additional humanitarian support to get water, sanitation and hygiene products to tens of thousands of civilians across Gaza. That is in addition to the support that we're already providing. Our 2 field hospitals in Gaza have already seen 600,000 patients, And earlier this month, Mr. Speaker, we evacuated the third group of sick and injured Palestinian children to the United Kingdom, and they are now being treated by the NHS. And we will work with the UN and our partners to go further and faster to provide the aid that is so desperately needed. And, Mr. Speaker, let no one be any doubt that none of this would have been possible without President Trump. This is his peace deal, delivered, of course, with President Sisi of Egypt, the Emir of Qatar, and President Erdogan of Turkey. Alongside our partners, we have also offered the UK's full support to these efforts.
Mr. Speaker, we must never forget what happened on the 7th of October 2023. The abduction of men, women and children was a calculated cruelty to break body, mind and soul after inflicting the mindless horror of rape and murder. There is no cause, no grievance that can ever justify what happened that day. I, for one, will never forget. And the response from some in the West, the equivocation, the indulgence in whataboutery and the drawing of false equivalence shows how far moral clarity has eroded. And we have got a job to do here at home, Mr. Speaker, to fix this. So on these benches, we stand alongside Israel in our shared fight against Islamist terror. The conflict could have ended a long time ago if the hostages had been returned. So many Palestinian lives have been needlessly lost because of this war. Mr. Speaker, Hamas is a genocidal terrorist organization. A sustainable end to the suffering of civilians in Gaza means the complete eradication of Hamas and the dismantling of its terrorist infrastructure. Even now, we know that Hamas is still killing Palestinians in Gaza. The initial phase of the US-backed peace plan represents a significant breakthrough. I want to thank the US administration, President Trump, and regional mediators for having secured this outcome. They put in the hard yards and found solutions, making clear that all progress would depend on the release of the hostages, a condition that some other governments forgot. Mr. Speaker, with this peace deal, there is much to be hopeful for in the Middle East. If the Abraham Accords are expanded, a new age of peace will have arrived. We will see diplomatic normalization of Israel with the Arab world, something many of us have longed to see. And it saddens me that the Prime Minister's statement does not appear to show that the UK was at the heart of any of these efforts specifically. It is quite clear that UK relations with Israel have been strained by the actions of this government. Their view, and they have stated publicly, is that it looks like under pressure from his own backbenchers, the Prime Minister has taken the wrong decisions, time and time again, diminishing our influence in the region. They can shout shame as much as they want to, Mr. Speaker. Within weeks of Labour coming into power, they decided to restore funding to UNRWA. We haven't forgotten. An organisation, they say yes, that's an organisation whose members assisted in the kidnapping of these hostages, the release which we are celebrating today. Relations with Israel have been so damaged that when Israel launched strikes against Iran, a country that has been a direct threat to us for years, the UK was out of the loop. They may not like it, but it is the truth. And then, in a move praised by Hamas, Labour decided to recognise a state of Palestine with no condition to release the hostages still held in the tunnels of Gaza, rewarding terrorism. They may chant it from a sedentary position. I will remind them of what the former British-Israeli hostage, Emily Damari, said. She called it a moral failure. I'm surprised to hear the Prime Minister say in his statement that it was a contribution to this peace deal. We all know that the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, condemned this recognition, saying it had made ceasefire negotiations harder. That is what the US said. The truth is, as historic events have unfolded in the Middle East, Britain has been out of step with the US. The US ambassador to Israel even called the government's claim that it played a key role in the ceasefire delusional, something Israeli foreign ministers agreed with.
Can I thank her for the words she said about the hostages just a moment ago, and I know how heartfelt they are. I was surprised and saddened that she spent more time attacking what we actually did to help the process than even mentioning the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Without setting out in terms the number of people that have been killed, that are starving, been subjected to denial of aid, when the immediate task for any serious government is to work with allies to get that aid in at speed. I would have expected at least an acknowledgement of that terrible situation. It shows yet again just how far her party has slid from serious statesperson approach to diplomacy. This is not the time for a fight about what role any individual played. I am proud of what Steve Witkoff said about our National Security Advisor. He was negotiating this. He knows absolutely the role we played, and this House should be proud that we played that role. We played that role only because of the relationship that this government has with the Trump administration. We are a trusted partner working both before this peace deal and afterwards. And yes, I did discuss recognition of Palestine with President Trump when he was over here. That's what grown-up, responsible partners do, unlike the discussion here. And I'd stand by my words that the first time in New York was the first time that other countries in the region were clear in their condemnation of Hamas. That was a key and important aspect of what has now happened. In relation to her questions, she will know from the reforms that have already been committed to, that the Palestinian Authority and any elections will not tolerate any election of individuals or parties that are not committed to a peaceful process. That is an absolute red line. It is part of the agreement. It's what we've been talking to other allies about for a very, very long time. On healthcare cases, yes, as I reported, we have had healthcare cases coming to the United Kingdom and students, and of course we're extremely careful in the checks that we carry out on everybody that comes to this country. But I return, Mr. Speaker, to the fact that this is a historic deal. It is important for the region. It is important for the world. It is to be celebrated across this House because of the relief it brings to the hostages and their families in particular, and to the many thousands of people in Gaza. And I was, as I say, surprised and saddened that she overlooked what to me is a really important part of the resolution of this conflict. Yeah.